one and done. He was fired by the Cowboys earlier today, with Jerry Jones saying, quote, "After reviewing and discussing the results of our defensive performance this season, it was clear that change is needed. This is the first step in that process, and we will continue that review as it applies to reaching our much higher expectations." All right, so he was the third defensive coordinator, was Eberflus, in the last 3 seasons for the Cowboys, and it's easy to see why they wanted yet another change. How about this for Cowboys ranks? Points per game, last. Pass yards per game allowed, last. Third down defense, last. Efficiency in EPA, also
God, that's
last.
ugly.
So this was a terrible defense no matter what way you slice
Holy
it.
shit.
But Swaggy, I do think it is at least worth positing this question. Was the Cowboys defense last year more of a Matt Eberflus issue or a Cowboys defensive personnel issue?
Personnel issue. Look, Phil, ain't no good coach ever existed without good players.
This
I
is
tell
true.
people this all the time. Like, it's no coincidence that Seattle and the Houston Texans are playing the way they play. They got dudes all over the field. And listen, you're not going to be able to build your
He's got a
defenses
great
like
point
that.
there.
I use the two most polarizing defenses in the league. But you at least got to be able to look at a roster and say, okay, this guy is a game changer. Quentin Williams, I believe, is a game changer. I believe he can be more of the stout guy in the middle. But we know you need more. That's why we had the visceral reaction when Michael Parsons was let go from this team. It wasn't necessarily about the relationship, and I get the business part of it and all of that. But who on that defense would you line up and say, hey, man, we got to make sure we take care of this guy? No one.
Nobody. Yeah.
That was the case. So, again, Matt Eberflus is I think he's a solid defense coordinator. I don't think he's a world beater. Schematically, there are absolutely some things that they could have done differently. I would have been more of a pressure team when you don't have the personnel and just live and die by trying to put people in a bad way. So all of those things are to be discussed. But more importantly, the personnel was not good.
They weren't. That is true.
That's that.
They had a lack of talent.
This is how I think about the Cowboys defense. Marcus and I are both on remote right now, and we look great from top up. I love your jacket. I can guarantee you we're both wearing sweatpants.
Shorts on.
Right? You can't see it, but we got sweatpants on. That's the Cowboys defense. Up front, you got some guys.
Oh,
you got Quentin Williams, you got
damn.
Nick Clark. I think Donovan Ezeraku showed some stuff.
Oh, actually,
Pass
we were
rush is
more of
legit.
in our underwear.
The problem is everything behind that pass rush, because there are so many issues in that back end. The linebacker group, you need corners. It was a talent coaching one, and that's not to say Eberflus should have kept his job. The results are what they are. We saw a lot of coverage busts, some issues, obviously, that do stem from the scheme. But for the most part, this is a talent problem, and this is a defense that desperately needs more talent at the second and third
Without a
level.
doubt, we need
and
more talent.
frankly, doesn't have much cap space to do so this offseason.
Does that make me, since I live here in Connecticut and in
Oh,
studio,
shut up, Dan,
am I
you're
like the
lousy.
Texans defense then?
Yeah.
I'm combined.
You're
with
the
fully
Seahawks
dressed.
and the
Yeah,
Texans.
you
You're
fully
good on
dressed.
top
You and
and on bottom.
babyface.
Yeah, I'm the Texans
Yeah, you're a
defense.
babyface.
This is the best day of the year for me. Huge. I'm going to ask a question.
I'm just going to just leave that right there. Well, good evening, good people. Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to say thank you all for joining the Jobu Sports Report. I know it's going to be light tonight because of the college football games and things, and yeah, nobody really wants to watch me, and they should be watching college football. Now, Brian Flores, prayers, DC for life. Gilly, shout out to you, buddy. You were one of the first ones here. You and Timmy Terry, first ones in the house, and I appreciate you guys. Well, there may be some problems with getting Brian Flores, but we'll get to that after we get to Sleeper.
Sleeper is the #1 fantasy sports app. It pays to know sports. Pick more or less on top players. Your first pick is on us, so start winning now. Play in Texas, Georgia, Minnesota, and 27 more states. Pick anytime across all sports, pregame or live. Over 10 million players are already on Sleeper. Make your picks count. Score up to 1,000 times your cash. Join today. Get up to $100 credit using code JOBU. Call your shot on Sleeper. Download now.
Make sure you call your shot on Sleeper and get that $20 bonus. Sign up when you sign up using the promo code JOBU, and up to $100 deposit, matching up to $100 on your deposit. Do that today while we get the playoffs tomorrow. Okay, so the Brian Flores situation here is he's got an interview for head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, and allegedly the Raiders, of course, with the tie-in because of Tom Brady. Tom Brady, we may be looking at evolving and being more hands-on than he's been there before. He's been basically one of the owners of the operation, doing, of course, his telecast, of course, on the games, broadcasting, analysis. But the thought is he's going to be more active on the team and trying to do stuff because Mark Davis is just a freaking idiot. And if that's the case, having a guy like Brian Flores, who was a coach in New England, definitely kind of opens the door. Now, if you're Brian Flores, who really got screwed, okay? Now, if we go through with Miami should have regrets of firing him because he was a great mind. The players loved him, and he didn't do bad things. The first year he was 5-11. 5-11 his first year. 11-5 the second year, and 9-8 the third year. What the problem was is the ownership wanted Tua. Oh shit! And they wanted to tank for him. So, as I'm looking at this article right here, he was fired because Ross thought he was about to get Brady, and they used Tua as an excuse. They thought they were going to get Tom Brady and Sean Payton, and they used Tua as an excuse to cover their asses. Unfortunately, ultimately, Flores was 100% right about Tua, and I think he ended up drawing the short straw of the game in the politics, which is true. And so you've got the lawsuit and everything else where he's been persona non grata. What's up, Philadelphia? Kiana Gibson in the house. What's up? We got Derek Young. Everybody showing up now. Appreciate that. DC Gilly. Logan Motorsports in the house. What's up? I was wondering. I was like, boy, everything's getting kind of – it's like, did I have the stream on right? Am I actually live? I don't know. Nobody's here. Nobody loves me anymore. So Brian Flores is getting some play, of course, for head coach. Now, for Baltimore, there's no guarantee that he gets the Baltimore job. Kevin Stefanski, surprisingly, is one of those hot candidates. And Baltimore's already interviewed him. So I don't think that Brian Flores is going to be the guy. Now, we've got the Cowboys, who, of course, have been doing some interviews. Now, we thought that the Cowboys were late to the party, okay? Now, this was actually interesting. I learned this from 105.3 The Fan when I was listening to this clip earlier, that even though the Cowboys, fired him on Tuesday, which was a surprise to me, I didn't think the Cowboys would do anything that soon, that their request for interviewing defensive coordinators was actually the first ones for defensive coordinators. So the Cowboys are actually ahead of the curve, which is kind of crazy because usually we are way behind. What's up, Logan Motorsports? How are you, Alan Williams? Michael, how are you doing, Michael? Yeah, Eagles. You know what, Eagles? I haven't talked about them much in a while. But I'm wondering, if the Eagles do lose, should I bring him back? Should I bring back the clip of him talking about three-peating and eating some ass? Should I bring that clip? Because I said to him, to Leo, I'm good, Logan, I'm good. I said to Leo, if the Eagles don't repeat, I'm going to put that clip. I'm just going to put it on live, on repeat, and just let it run for like 24 hours. Should I do that? Should I do that? Or should I just let that go? Should I just let that okay. I'll do a poll on that tomorrow. So Brian Flores may be out of reach. So when you look at the guys that they've brought in here for interviews, none of them have had professional football experience. And I believe that what they're doing is they're calling it coordinators. But what you'll notice is every one of them have worked for somebody that they actually look up to. So when you think about the Minnesota defensive coach that they're interviewing, well, he's worked under Brian Flores. Because a lot of times what you do when you interview coaches, you've got an opportunity to pick their brain for 4 or 5 hours. you try and learn some of the things that they're doing and implement them on your team. This is like free learning. I've got you here. Hey, when you were working in Minnesota under Brian Flores, what were some of the things that you really liked, that you did that you'd like to implement here with the Cowboys, Oh, man, well, we like to go ahead and try and basically get the blitzer in coming from the backside, and we like to constantly scheme up more and more pressure, and blah, 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 blah. Oh, really? And you got people that are taking notes. You're videotaping the whole situation so that way you can give it to your people. It's a learning experience. So that's part of the thing here. And I'm going to get to Jim Leonhard here in just a minute. But let me play this clip because this actually kind of makes you feel a little bit better. And as a Cowboy fan, we need to feel a lot better than what we've been feeling. Let's go to the tape here.
Defense. What if the Cowboys' first pick in the draft is offensive line?
Ugh.
How excited would y'all be for that?
I would not be.
Let's talk about it here in Below the Belt, which is sponsored by D&M Leasing and Window Nation. The reason why everybody feels like
Unless
now.
you told me the Panay Sewell is dropping to us.
Well, see, there is, there's a good tackle who will probably be there, but I don't know if he's Panay Sewell. The reason why everybody feels like the Cowboys need defense is because of the defensive failings that ultimately led to the firing of Matt Eberflus. So the Cowboys are in search of a new defensive coordinator. Todd Archer had the report yesterday, which, by the way, I did go back and look at it because I'd asked this at the end of Crosstalk yesterday. There had only been one interview scheduled across the entire league for a coordinator position as of yesterday, and it was for
and you pointed that out in Crosstalk, which made me apologize to Jerry and Steven because the dominoes had not started falling. Everyone's waiting for their head coaching news to come out.
So it was Patrick Graham as the defensive coordinator interview in Washington was the only one, which Dallas would not have been interested in him. I believe by the time these were put in yesterday, the Cowboys did end up being like the first defensive coordinator requests that were made across the NFL. So they were ahead of it looks like. Archer said that the Cowboys have requested permission to speak with three different individuals. Minnesota defensive pass game coordinator Durante Jones, Denver assistant head coach pass game coordinator Jim Leonhard, and Browns safeties coach Ephraim Banda for their defensive coordinator vacancy. They did also request for Jeff Ulbrich from the Falcons. They were declined on that. I kind of wonder even if they weren't intending on bringing back Ulbrich, would they block him anyway? Because Arthur Blank still hates Jerry Jones, it feels like. And
Arthur has beef?
Oh, yeah, they were the ones who fought really bad over Goodell getting his extension. On the Cowboys DC search, Todd Archer says that the Cowboys said they would cast a wide net. The names learned today will not be the final list of coaches that they talk to for the job. So the Cowboys are kind of opening this up a little bit and trying to identify some people. Now, these three names, we've talked about Jim Leonhard a lot. I think it's relevant to note that Connor Orr from Sports Illustrated, every year he does a list of the top NFL head coaching candidates for the future.
Yeah,
so not the people for this cycle, but for the future. And then behind that he goes, and here's some other people that are on track to be coordinators eventually. All three of these guys that they got interviews with yesterday were on Connor Orr's list a couple weeks ago as future names that will progress in the NFL. On Jim Leonhard, he calls him a likely replacement for Vance Joseph if Joseph receives a head coaching job. Leonhard is a former NFL defensive back known for his involvement in game planning, even as a player. Leonhard served as the interim head coach for Wisconsin in 2022. And then you had on Durante Jones, who's been on this list for a couple years now. He said Jones is 47 years old, one of a handful of coaches on Brian Flores' Viking staff who are in line for defensive coordinator consideration. He has experience at the high school, college, and professional levels and coordinated a defense under Ed Orgeron. And then the final one, Ephraim Banda. He says Banda, the former Utah State defensive coordinator, has been under Jim Schwartz in Cleveland for the last 2 years, or 3 years. Banda was on the interview list for Shane Steichen this past offseason for defensive coordinator before the Colts eventually went with Lou Anarumo. So a couple different guys who look like this is the track that they're supposed to be taking, legitimate candidates, it looks like. Now, everybody at this point kind of feels like, I think I'm this place, I think you guys are this way, I think the fans are all this way. Your draft capital, any serious draft capital you have should probably be used on defense.
Yes.
I mean, if it's there.
Right, if it's there.
Considering they need everything on defense, they're like It's not as narrow.
Okay, I'm going to leave it right there because they go on into the draft and stuff. But here's the problem with, we're like, oh, we got draft picks. Well, we've got 2 firsts, which are great. Don't get me wrong. And the Cowboys usually do pretty good on their first-round picks. Don't get it twisted. We should be able to get 2 starters, 2 impact players. Because here's the way I look at the draft. The way I look at the draft is your first-round picks need to be a day 1 starter that makes your team better. So you got 2. You better get somebody in there. You better get 2 somebodies in there that are making your team better right off the bat. Now, you can look at that and say, Donovan Easy out of need wasn't bad. Wasn't the impact that you would like to have, but he is definitely a baller. The year before, Tyler Guyton has been leaving you wanting. The year before that, Mozzie is just gone. So we've had some problems with that. And in the end, somebody had posted in here and they said, in the end, it's not going to matter who the coach is. And just like Swagoo did, it's true. You've got to have some players. And beyond our defensive front, once you got out into our edge rushers, got into our linebacking core, got into our secondary, you got a whole lot of holes in there. It's like a block of Swiss cheese. And if you don't get players to fill these legitimate players, and I'm not talking about your Kyler Elams and your Kenneth Murrays, you got to get legitimate players. Because I like the quote from Quinnen Williams where he was basically, and it's not an exact quote, I'm summarizing it, but basically he's saying at some point you can't just blame the coaches. He's like, cover 2's been cover 2 for 50 years. At some point, the players have to be able to play. Man-to-man is man-to-man. Zone is zone. You have to be able to play. And I'm glad that he actually put some of that onus on the players. And we understand. We know that getting rid of Micah Parsons, that between Dan Quinn and Micah Parsons, they did a lot more with less than what we should have had. And another thing that we also don't look at beyond Micah Parsons, you have to understand that we also let go D-Law. And you see what D-Law did this year for Seattle. And, granted, he had always nicked up and injured and missing times, but it was still another veteran player that was out there that was a teacher, that was a guy who could still stop the run and was a great player. And on top of that, you have to look at, too, and Jerry finally admitted that getting rid of your slot corner and Jordan Lewis was another mistake that they made. So it wasn't just Micah. Your edges both just disappeared along with one of your better cornerbacks. And I dare say, looking back at it right now, Diggs hasn't been right for the last 3 seasons. And Deron Bland was really kind of a one-hit wonder, and he missed 12 games last year. So what you lost from last year's defense, not that it was good, you lost Jordan Lewis, who arguably was your best cornerback. You lost your 2 top edge rushers. And you relied on a rookie, a guy you signed after training camp, and a guy who never lived up to his billings in Sam Williams coming off a knee injury. Your linebacking core, you kind of got a journeyman who just seems to be lost as your main linebacker, a special teamer who was your linebacker, and waiting for a guy coming back from, again, a catastrophic knee injury. So we sit here and we look and we want to put all the things, hey, Roland, how are you doing? We want to put all the onus on Everfuss, but you also have to look at the players they put on the team. You look at that, what you got there on the defense versus what you've got on the offense. You went ahead and got a stud offensive lineman in Tyler Booker. You had Tyler Smith over there. You had Cooper Beebe. Those guys were really good. You already had CeeDee Lamb, who's an all-pro. You have a really good quarterback, although people said he was about 17th ranked going into the season, but he's a top 5 quarterback. You have a good tight end. You add George Pickens. The talent is all on the offense. and there's just not enough on the defense. So the Cowboys, in order to fix this, well, yeah, I like that they're looking at young people, that they're looking at up-and-comers as opposed to retreads that are just looking to get, I was a head coach, I bombed, I crashed and burned, and now I need to get another job. So I'll just become a coordinator. I'm sick of old guys. And where we were last year, we ended up, looking at the Mike Zimmers, the Rex Ryans, old guys. I'm done with old guys. I need young guys that have a fresh perspective, that aren't trying to do the same thing that they did 30 years ago. You may have done great things 30 years ago, but that doesn't necessarily translate to today. And see, I can look at Tom Landry. Tom Landry was the greatest coach in my mind growing up. Tom Landry was an innovator. Tom Landry was the first one to start using the shotgun. Tom Landry had the shift. Tom Landry had the flex defense. Tom Landry was the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator. And the things that they ended up doing, from using a computer, using analytics, and using computers to basically crunch numbers on whether or not a player was worthwhile or going to be worthwhile in the NFL, and going to small schools and using these numbers to find great players. Going out and getting former track star, Bob, can't remember his last name. I'm going to say Bob Beeman, but he's a long jumper. That's a different story. But you guys know what I'm talking about. But, Mark, give it a rest. Go out to Cancun for a while. Goat stature, bro, don't tell me to give it up. I will do what the fuck I want to do, when I want to do it, where I want to do it. And if you don't like it, please don't watch. Come in here to tell me to take a vacation. Motherfucker. We're trying to find the next defensive coordinator on our team. We're trying to fix shit. So don't come in here trying to tell me how to fucking do what I want to do. Did you, Mark, pause on us? No, I didn't pause. Did I pause? No, the stream looks like it's going to me. Besides, I don't want to go to freaking Cancun. Shit, all the damn seaweed that keeps rolling in on the beaches and shit. I've been to Cancun. It's not always cracked up to be. Now, Cozumel, that's a little different story. Because if you go to Cozumel, you got to go to Mr. Sanchez. Because $50, you can be there all day drinking all the liquor and eating all the food that you want to. So, so don't tell me to go to Cancun. Don't tell me to go to Cancun. Shit, motherfucker. Again, you don't have to be here. And I want to be here. And as long as I want to be here, I will be here. Damn. So, now that I got that out of the way, Jim Leonhard. This is interesting. Now, I still believe that these are the brain-picking, warm-up interviews. I don't think that the Cowboys are stopping with 3 interviews. I don't. I think they're actually going to go ahead and cast a wide net. And what you can see here, regardless of what you heard Jerry Jones with his comment about, like Trump said, I'm running Venezuela, that Brian Schottenheimer is leading the charge. We could have a $10 million quarterback and be 7-9-1. Actually, bro, I hate to tell you this, Leo the Geek. Other teams that have had look, this is true. This is true. Now I want you to listen to this now, Leo. I get what you're saying. That if it would be one thing if you could translate into 60, getting a $10 million quarterback. In fact, let's look at $10 million quarterbacks. Hold on. Wait. NFL QB salary. Okay. Because you're talking about backup quarterbacks at $10 million. But let's humor you for a second. Okay, so Dak Prescott, I get it, is the highest paid. To get down to a $10 million quarterback, Russell Wilson, Anthony Richardson, Marcus Mariota, Davis Mills, Jacoby Brissett, Tyrod Taylor, Zach Wilson. Those are the kind of guys that you're talking about. Unless it's a guy you just drafted, then it's going to be different because they're a fresh drafted quarterback. Here's the reality of it. Of the top 10 teams, top 10 worst defenses that have given up points like we have, I believe 8 of them have only 2 wins. The Cowboys with Dak, and there was only one other one that had more than 2 wins. That's a fact. If you took the Cowboys defense and put it on the Eagles, they'd be a 3-win team with their offense. They'd be a 3-win team. Seriously. I know 7.5 wins is not a lot. You know, that shouldn't be what we're striving for, but that's more than you would have if you got Tyrod Taylor. Just is. And the hardest position to find somebody is a quarterback. Leo the Geek, I hear what you're saying, but take a look at that division. Take a look at how bad that division was. And the Saints had a last place schedule. So you want to get rid of the one guy who got CeeDee Lamb missing 5 games, 1,000 yards. They got 1,400 yards with George Pickens. Okay. All right. We can agree to disagree. Goat stature, we will win on Sunday. Logan, Niners are rivals too, and I'm their biggest fan on Sunday. Yeah, I think all of us Cowboy fans are 49er fans, at least for 1 week or for 1 day. Dirty Sanchez in the house. What's up, Dirty? We know you're out there getting nasty. Okay, so Brian Schottenheimer, though, who is driving this, does seem to have a man crush on Jim Leonhard. Let's listen into this take from a couple days ago. Don't have my sound.
The alma mater, obviously, so glad to be doing it.
Find someone that's a great teacher.
I want to teach. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I came back. Love the alma mater, obviously, so glad to be doing it here. But to me, coaching is all teaching.
A great communicator.
You know, maybe you have to find a different way to reach all the guys. And I learned a lot about how to individually kind of hit guys and push the right buttons to get them to respond and, you know, be able to have success on Saturdays.
You guys know me. You're around me a lot. I'm full of energy and love what I do. I think someone that's passionate about football.
Do you love football? Or do you love being a football player and what that brings? If you love football, you're willing to be coached hard. You're willing to be coached hard. You want to learn. You're going to put in extra time. All that stuff.
But the ability to take what is complicated information, what we ask our players to do in all 3 phases is complicated. We want guys that can say complicated information in a simple manner.
Football is a simple game complicated by coaches. We really can make this game a lot bigger than it is. Now, it is a very intricate game at the highest levels. There is a lot of detail. Do not get me wrong, but I think there's a lot of times where we try to make the game more complicated than it needs to be.
And if I say something to you that you don't understand, I need the ability to say it a different way.
It's always frustrating when you see guys that are a little bit stuck, and how do you push them through that? But you just find new ways to try to hit them and try to push through those hurdles.
the same message, but say it a different way, because how you learn might be different than how Nick learned or how Ed learns.
The next thing that you have to learn about the individual is how they learn. Everyone's different. You have to be willing to coach the individual.
That is so true. Is people learn different. And for shout out to Gina Dallas Diva in the house. What's up, Gina? And to answer lovely Linda, Fred Warner should be back. That's one of the linebackers. Somebody we know pretty well, and maybe we should have re-signed him. I still don't know why we didn't re-sign him, which was Eric Kendricks, instead of keeping Kenneth Murray. And I will say Kaiser White is another one of their linebackers. So if you're trying to say that, we're rooting for a team we don't know anything about, I'm just like saying we got a little bit there. But to his point, people do learn differently. I am dyslexic. Believe it or not, I used to stutter a lot. Trust me, I could not speak in public. I would be too scared because my tongue would get tied. And with dyslexia, what happens is, and you guys will see this a lot of times, I'll do a title and you'll read it and it makes no sense, but in my mind, I have it correct, but somehow it gets lost in translation. My C's look like E's, my B's look like D's, my 3's and 5's. Things will always get messed up. And in school, I was kind of pigeonholed because they were like, you're just an idiot. But what I found out is I'm a very visual person. If you show it to me, or like with the internet, see, for me growing up, they'd say, look it up. Well, if you don't know that knee is spelled with a K, knee sounds like N-E-E. So if I'm trying to look up something and I don't know what the letters are on it, how can I frickin' look it up? If we had the internet when I was growing up and I could just speak into the phone and say what I need, it'd be so easy. Or just being able to watch and learn. I memorize things. I completely memorize. I don't have a teleprompter. I don't have a list. I sit down here and I just start talking. I might have a little list of things that I want to elaborate on, but that's it. And that's the way I learn. I learn differently than others. And same thing with teaching football. And that's a key thing. And that's one of those things that Brian Schottenheimer has been really on about being a teacher, about educating the guys and getting them to follow through. Now, a lot of people have been talking about, oh, man, and I've said it too, that I liked what Al Harris has done with the secondary stuff. But because Al Harris doesn't get, or at least Brian Schottenheimer doesn't like the fact that Al Harris lets players get away with a lot, the discipline on the team, it's not a good fit for them. Christian McCaffrey's going to run all over that weak-ass defense. We'll see. Now, I say a lot of bad things about the Eagles. I don't know that it's a weak-ass defense, though. I'm going to have to at least give it that one. You have a telegraphic memory. I do. And see, like for me, I can build where I'll have a vision. In my mind, I'll see what I want it to be, and I can build it to that, as opposed to I need the plans that has the vision on there. And that's just it. That's not right or wrong. It's just the way that I personally learn. And so everybody's different. But I think of the candidates that they have definitely talked to, that that is the guy that that Brian Schottenheimer really, really likes. Now, it may still be that they would really like to get Brian Flores. If Brian Flores doesn't do well in these interviews and doesn't get a head coaching cycle, I could see them wanting to, bring him in and interview him as well. But we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. He's already got the one set up for the Baltimore Ravens, and the Raiders are definitely going to try and go after him. But I don't think that this is going that their circle is only that big. I think they're going to be going around a lot further than that. But this is Jim Leonhard, in his own words. This is when he was with, of course, Denver. and you've seen how Denver has done on defense, and they have been constantly slowly building. And the thing I would like to impress upon you is as we look at Denver now, I want you to keep in mind the first half of Sean Payton's time, first half of his season. What? Oh, okay. No, okay. The way you looked is like you had some breaking news. Kevin Stefanski. Okay. Yeah. The first half of season that Sean Payton was there with Denver, everybody laughed at him. Like, oh, my God, you got rid of Russell Wilson. You took that big cap hit. Oh, Sean Payton's lost it. You know, he had Drew Brees, and Drew Brees did everything for him. You know, he won his last Super Bowl so long ago. He's a freaking idiot. But he's been building that team to the point where now you look at it and say, oh, okay, Sean Payton, yeah, that guy knows how to coach. And they've been building the roster. So when you look at it with the Cowboys, hopefully the Denver Broncos are the model for us that, you know, first year, it takes some time to start building the culture. And that is truly what Shotty's been trying to do by getting rid of a Diggs who, you know, was kind of doing things his way and a malcontent. Getting rid of Micah Parsons, who, don't get me wrong, incredible player, but was also one of those guys that would get away with stuff. And when you have somebody who's constantly getting away with stuff and throwing others under the bus, you get the rest of the teammates is like, well, why does he get away with all this shit? You know, why is it that he gets carte blanche? Because he's getting 12 sacks a season. That's why he is. But that culture does matter. So this is Jim Leonhard talking a little bit about himself.
Much motion in today's NFL. Defensively, looks like a lot of defensive backs are moving inside, outside, positional versatility. How important is it to be able to have guys that can do a little bit of both in today's game?
You need versatility, whether it's flexibility between corners, safeties, being able to play outside, inside. You know, you can't hide. You can't hide guys anymore. You have to be able to communicate and think. You know, if you can't play inside the numbers, they just put their best receiver in there and work those matchups. So that's a big emphasis, you know, as far as Vance and his defense. And, you know, I was a guy throughout my career that had to do a little bit of everything and try to get that across to our players. And I'm excited for that challenge. I think we have a number of DBs that just have a really versatile skill set, and we're going to take advantage of that.
Jim, Sean talked about talking to you last year, but then you had hip surgery and, you know, you've done so much in college. How exciting is it when this opportunity came about and for a chance to get to the NFL after coaching in college for so long?
Definitely excited to be here. Last year was a great time for me to kind of step away and reset a little bit. And we had talked a year ago and decided against it, but it was hard to turn down twice. And I love my time here in Denver. It was a great experience as a player, and just knowing really from the top down, you know, the commitment and the passion for the Broncos here in Denver. Excited to be back for this to be my first opportunity coaching in the NFL.
Being back in the NFL, kind of what's the difference coaching these guys at this level compared to at Wisconsin last?
I think, number one, the starting point, right? Just a little bit more experience. You don't have to quite start from ground level. You're able to build a little bit higher knowledge base, and but at the same time, it's all about the fundamentals at this position and teaching guys how to simplify, not to make the game harder than it is. So I'm definitely excited. You know, the recruiting element, being able to kick that to the side and focus on really the relationship with the coaches and the game planning and the players. Very excited for that.
What kind of opportunity is it to have Pat as sort of the building block of your secondary? Just what have you made of him as a player so far?
Talent wins in this league, and obviously we feel like we got one of the best corners in the NFL.
There you go. Talent wins.
Excited to work with him and just to help grow the leadership side. You know, he's getting to a point in his career where, you know, his voice goes a long way on the team, in the DB room. So I'm excited to continue to push him there, as well as what he's done on the field. You know, so much of what he does is just so natural. Like it looks easy for him, and just trying to find ways to continue to get him to improve. But once again, to have more of an impact on this team, on the field, off the field, that's really his next step.
The leadership side, how do you nurture that? Because, of course, with Justin being gone, it's a defense that's probably looking for a new generation of leadership.
Yeah, I think number one, you want it to be natural for him. Fit his communication style, his personality. Probably the best advice for him was just do it your way. Be you. He's a guy who is naturally kind of quiet, just lead by example type. He has to just understand the weight that his voice has in that locker room. Him having a one-on-one conversation with somebody's going to go a long ways. So he doesn't have to be vocal in front of the team. He doesn't have to send the message to the media, but just an understanding of kind of the eyes on him and what his opinion means to this franchise. So that'd be the number one thing, and just excited for him to continue to grow as a player on and off the field, and to work with the rest of this group and just continue to make the biggest impact on this team for myself as a coach and for our whole group.
You played with a handful of great players, but Champ Bailey being high on that list, you can understand the comparisons with him being a bigger corner. Can you see some of those similarities between Pat and Champ or some of the other great teammates you had?
Yeah, I was very fortunate to play with a number of great corners, and Champ being one of them. And the thing that impressed me about Champ was just every day how he looked good and was smooth and was able to bring it, even though he was towards the end of his career when I played with him.
All right, that's a little taste of Jim Leonhard. Again, I don't know if Jim Leonhard's the guy. He's definitely a guy that Schottenheimer likes. I like the idea that we're not trying to get an old head or a failed head coach, but this is definitely being led by Schottenheimer going forward. So let me be clear. So Little Dallas Cowboys, Dak playing at hometown Cabo team. There are channels where you can go that you would definitely fit in well with Cowboys hate. Trust me, with Dak Prescott hate. Mills, start padding Dak. Y'all know Dak. But Dak almost led the league in passing yards. Laugh out loud. What a joke. We are in. I'm about to turn into a Giants fan. They got a nice young upcoming quarterback with a upcoming team with a real quarterback. You know what, Mills? Have fun with that. Go on to the Giants. Bye. Boy, bye. Bye. See you later. Somebody pointed out that the Cowboys have no money to do anything. And that is a misnomer that is out there, okay? That's just not a fact. It's not even close to true. They can do anything they want to do if they want to do it, okay? This is no bullshit. This is real. I want you to understand something. Let's take a look at this, because I've talked about this so many times ad nauseum that y'all don't seem to get it. Okay, here's what I want you to understand. Let's go to the tape right here, or go to the board here, okay? This past year, this was your salaries. Now, keep in mind, CeeDee Lamb signed a contract for $34 million a year. You understand what his cap number was? $15 million. $15 million. $15 million. Tyler Smith, he signed his deal. You know what Tyler Smith's contract number was last year? $6.18 million. Almost the same as Dante Fowler. Jake Ferguson, he signed his extension last year. Do you know what his cap number was? $3.9 million. Okay? So understand that when you sign somebody to a contract, generally you make that first year kind of low. The Eagles have been doing that forever, kicking the can down the road. Now, here's the thing that I want you to understand right now, before I dig in even deeper in the numbers. This year, this season, the NFL had the second most views since 1989. Second in their history. The highest was 1989. This season, more people watched football than any other year in this century. Do you understand what that means to the money in the NFL? Do you know how many different streaming platforms you now have to pay for as opposed to just watching it on ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox? Do you understand all of the gambling that is out there. Now, last year, the salary cap went up by, what, $27 million? I'm betting that it will be going up by over $30 million next year. Easily. So, when we look at this, you see this red number that's flashing at you of $40 million. And that's where people will say, like, little Dallas Cowboys, all resources on offense, you get what you pay for on defense. There's no difference in it at Woke Yusuf. Well, part of the problem is not just that they've spent all their capital on offense. A lot of the problem is they've really sucked at drafting on defense. When you look at the highway that's been littered between Boss Man Fats, Tristan Hills, Mozzie Smith, Sam Williams, Marshawn Nealon, you can go down the line, Quentin Bohannon, John Ridgway. They've actually used draft capital on defensive players. The only ones that have been good have been, in recent history, have been Micah Parsons, although you did turn him into a couple other players, and Diggs for 1 year, 2 years, and Deron Bland for 1 year. Other than that, you've just struck out in the draft. The Cowboys have never been a team in recent history that have been out there spending a lot of money on defensive players. Either way, or offensive players. That's not what they do. They generally draft. They try and have homegrown talent between USFL and undrafted free agents. They don't use free agency that much. And when they do, it is toaster leavings. It's the bottom of the barrel. That has to change because having only 2 picks in the top 100, trust me, having 2 in the top possibly 20 is great. But 2 players alone are not going to fix it, especially at being a rookie. And typically, here's what you also have to understand too is offensive line, generally guys that are drafted in the first and second round, 75% of them play 10 or more games. No other position except quarterback do you have that. So when you say, I'm going to draft cornerbacks or I'm going to draft defensive linemen, generally speaking, not very many of them are going to play significant time for you right out the box. So that's the problem. And herein lies where the Cowboys are going to have to do things differently. So we've got this $40 million that we are over the cap at this moment in time. Okay. Raise your hand if you think Terrence Steele is going to be here. Raise your hand. I think Terrence Steele will be probably a post-June 1st cut. If he's just a regular cut, it's $9.3 million. If he's a post-June 1st one, it's $14 million. So you take 40 and you take, we'll say the 10 off of it. Just we'll keep it round. That's $30 million. Salary cap goes up by $30 million. That right there gets you to zero. If we use, and if you go to over the cap and you click on the dead money and cap money section, there's a thing called restructure. Restructure just kind of kicks the can down the road where the salary cap, it actually behooves you to kick it down the road because today's $60 million won't be the same in 2 years because the salary cap will continue to go up. The percentage will be down. It's kind of like I was talking to someone that I said, when you're young, if you were able to put $500 away a month and 35 years later you retired, that $500 a month that you put in would be worth somewhere between $980,000 to $180,000, depending on your return in the stock market, if it's 8% or 12% on average. The only problem is what will $1.8 million be? Because it sounds, oh my God, that's $1.8 million. The question will be is, what will $1.8 million be worth in 35 years. It won't be the same. It'll be more like $500,000 is now. Still good, but because everything else goes up. So if we use the triggers, you get $31 million from Dak. Okay, we're on the plus side right there, $31 million. I'm saying you cut Terrence Steele, so forget about his restructure. CeeDee Lamb, you get another $19 million. Okay, all right. So now we're at $50 million just from those two triggers. Quentin Williams, you can get $14.5 million right there. Oh, shit. So now we're at $64 million. Osa and Digazua, flip the trigger. Now we're at $76 million. Tyler Smith, Tyler Smith, you can flip the trigger. Get $17 million. Oh, so now we're at $96 million. Now, I'm not sure I'm going to flip the trigger on Deron Bland because I'm worried about if he's really going to be a player on my team for much longer with that foot issue. So I wouldn't flip the trigger on that one. But I could flip it on Jake Ferguson, which gets me to $99 million right there. So that's what you can do and say, I've got Dak Prescott, who's played pretty good. He's played good enough to win if he had a decent defense. And I'm not going to franchise tag George Pickens. That's going to be $28 million hard money. And if he plays again real well, it's going to only cost you more. And if you ended up doing similar like you did with CeeDee Lamb, his first year was only around $11 million. If you ended up giving him a contract where his first year is only about $11 million, that still gives you an additional $17 million to use towards other players. Now, does this in the future kind of hamstring you possibly? Yeah, because you are basically taking out a loan now to try and win. But if Jerry Jones is serious about trying to win, retire, I don't see him actually retiring anytime, and having more Super Bowls than anybody else, then you got to go all in, bro. You got to go all in. Now, I'm going to say, little Cowboy, by all means, go become a Giants fan. By all means. I know you think that they're ready to rock and roll and everything else. I believe they just fired their coach, didn't they? I believe they fired their coach. And they're too stupid to understand the concept of tanking to get the number one pick. Instead, they go through and win a couple more games and end up now being the fifth pick. Had they gotten the number one pick and they said that Jackson Dart is their guy, you could have gotten several picks for that pick for somebody to move up to get the number one pick. But no. By all means, please go become a New York Giant fan. I won't miss you. Not even a little. Not even a bit. Okay? Not at all. By all means. If you don't want to be a Cowboy fan, if y'all don't want to like the team, hey, you ain't got to be here. There's 31 other teams you can take your happy ass to. I choose to be a Cowboy fan because I've been one for 60 freaking years because of this guy right here, my dad. So, as long as I still have a breath in my lungs, as long as I can still talk, as long as I can still watch football and still know who I am, I'm stuck being a Dallas Cowboy fan. And you cannot call me a bandwagon fan, Logan. In fact, anybody who claims to be a Dallas Cowboy fan right now is not a bandwagon. There's no band. There's no wagon. There's nothing to celebrate. Only misery here, bro. Only misery. There are no more bandwagon Cowboy fans. You haven't done shit in 30 years. You know what bandwagon fans are? All those Seattle Seahawks fans from about 15 years ago that all of a sudden became Seattle fans. You know what bandwagon fans were? All those ones that became New England Patriots fans in the 2000s when they started winning Super Bowls. Those were bandwagon fans there, bro. There ain't no bandwagon here in Dallas land because we suck. Okay? Now, we start winning, oh yeah, we'll have plenty of those that'll join. But this guy right here, die hard. And I've been dying hard. not hurt Patriots fans. Misery equals Gerald Wayne Jones. Yeah, unfortunately. But see, here's the thing. I grew up on Tom Landry, Roger Staubach, and, Ed Too Tall Jones and, Drew Pearsons and things. Those are my memories of the Cowboys. And no, do I like what Jerry and Steve, do I like Jerry? We're working hard here. We're going to get it right. No, Jerry, I'm sick of you. I'll be 100% real. I'm sick of Jerry Jones. Let me clarify this. Jerry Jones has built an incredible stadium, incredible workout facility, then done great things as far as promoting the team. Hell, it keeps me employed because it's so dysfunctional. Those are all positive things as far as the Cowboys brand. But I hate the way he runs this team. He shouldn't be running it at 83 years old, not with his hands in all these other businesses. But this is Jerry Jones's ego. Do I like that? No, I don't. It just is what it is. Mills. Yes, that is the past. But I can't turn my back on my past. I can't forget my roots. What, I'm supposed to take all of those Hall of Famers, all of those great players, all of that stuff that I've been collecting since the 70s, and I'm supposed to throw that away because I'm on hard times? Bro, I hope that when you get married, if you have a significant other, that when you have hard times, that you don't just walk away. See that right there, that reminds me of an old song that was, when you got money, you got lots of friends. When you don't, they don't come around. See, that's when you know if you got a real one, is when you struggle. And that's the kind of people that you want to be around, are the people that aren't there just for the party. They ain't there when you got plenty of liquor on the shelf and everything else for the party. The real ones are the ones that help you clean up after that mess. And see, that's where, I don't know how old you are, Mills 0040, okay? I don't know how old you are, but see, that's not the way I was raised. Loyalty matters. Friendship matters. And if you're a quitter, okay, well then I guess that's today's generation that looks at everything like, oh, I need a new cell phone every 6 months. Oh, the car I got out here, but that's a year old. It's time for me to trade that in and get me another one, and I need to put these rims. And see, that's why y'all broke ass. That's why y'all have nothing, because of that mentality. You don't understand longevity. You don't understand loyalty. You don't understand being able to save and invest and grow. I was talking to, my wife was talking to a gentleman who's working with homeless people and things, where they literally running shelters and things. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are homeless right here where I am now. And I have a feeling there's going to be a lot more of those, because as this generation that feels entitled, because that's the problem. Y'all feel entitled that everybody owes you something. You feel like, well, the Cowboys, they owe me. No, they don't owe you. You can either be a fan or not be a fan. They don't. No, nobody owes you shit. Nobody owes you shit. You want something, you go out and earn it. But so many of this generation, they feel entitled that, oh, I shouldn't have to work a job, or I shouldn't have to do this, or I shouldn't have to do that. I never ask anybody to do something that I'm not willing to do my damn self. And if you're not willing to do that, you will never have anything. And you can look at me and say, well, he's a broke ass. He ain't got shit. Maybe, maybe not. So you do you, boo. You do you. You want to throw away your Cowboys? Hey, then you were never a real fan to begin with. Never were. Kiana Gibson, SD1. Keep playing with the Rocky statue. The stadium is trash, bro. The Rocky statue needs more Niners gear. Oh, shit. All right, so 49ers and Eagles trash-talking each other here. Okay. We owe the few more ass whippings, though. Those who forgot the past are destined to repeat it. Pay attention, Eagles fans. But you know what? And I tell you what, Mills, you ain't got to believe in Dak. That's cool. Bro, that's cool. That's cool. That's your opinion, and you are more than entitled to be able to do that. I've got a different one. You do you, boo, and I'm going to do me. And I'm not going to try and convince you to change your mind and tell you you're an idiot for what you believe. No, that's what you believe. How was Rush Hour? Sorry, backup winning more than his team last year than Dak. He didn't win more games than Dak last year, bro. He didn't win 7 games. Did not win 7. We won 6 games all season, bro. 6 games with a softer schedule. And as bad as our defense was last year, it wasn't as bad as this one. So, whatever, little Dallas Cowboy. All righty, people. As always, we get, I will, but I'll use AI. Yeah, you know what? AI, see, y'all don't realize AI is going to put a lot of you mother humpers out on the streets. A lot of y'all are going to become homeless because AI is just taking that over. You need to learn trade. You need to find something that you can't be done with freaking AI. An electrician, a carpenter, those trades, I'm telling you, AI can't take it. It can't take those jobs. I drove past the Buc-ee's and Walmart distributor going in North Carolina last week, Mark. Oh, yeah, Buc-ee's is huge. Oh, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I've only been to the grand opening that's here in Virginia, but they're kind of going up everywhere. But you know what happens when I think here's the problem I think that's going to happen for Buc-ee's. For a while, it was like a novelty, kind of like farmers markets. Remember when, 15 years ago when you first saw, oh, my God, there's a farmers market. They got fresh stuff, right? People went crazy. Oh, my God, it's a farmers market. But then you saw a farmers market everywhere, every other day, and it was kind of like, oh, yeah, I've been there, done that. And so Buc-ee's, when there was a limited supply of them, oh, my God, there's a Buc-ee's, and go. But now they're going to have one, on 81. They're going to have one on 64 that's only about an hour and a half away. And then they're talking about one in West Virginia that's on 81. So you get to the point where you're oversaturating the market, and you end up getting kind of, you know what I mean? So, yeah, they're building them all over the place. So at some point, it becomes old news. But then again, what do I know? I'm just a broke ass here, sitting here talking about the Dallas Cowboys that always seem to be broke ass. But we're going to turn out the lights because this party's over.
The party's over. They say that all good things must end. Call it a night. The party's over. And tomorrow and next year starts the same old thing again.